Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again to this Torah lesson, a highlight with Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah, one of the teachers of the original BINAH King that was located in Brooklyn, New York, under the leadership of Nasik Yaakov ben Yehudah. This week, Nasik will be going over the portions of Haazinu and with Zohar Braka to close out the book of Devarim in the Torah, in the cycle of reading the Torah, the different Sidrot and Parashot that we read in a 1 year cycle. So Nasik, how are you today?
I'm great. Feeling great. Baruch Hashem. And I'd like to also, at this time, extend my thanks to the platform of D.C.B. But first of all, I'd like to give praise to Supreme Torah Universe.
Hallelujah.
God and my forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and due respect to the Chief Prince Ariel, the leadership of D.C.B., and also the host, Chief Uzel, taking out time in his schedule. I know, most people don't know how busy your schedule is during the weekday, but I know for them all. And to the dignitaries and the leadership of, chief men, princes, brothers and sisters, the Mourning that's out there, and all those that take time out to listen to my voice. I greet you in the time of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem.
And I say, Adonai Sephtadi Takopi Agit, Hinateka, O Lord, my lips and my mouth should declare the praise. Which is interesting, the last, closing out the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, is that Haazinu becomes the head of Yom Kippur. And then you get, then they have a little time in between, then it goes into Zohar Braka, which closes out the Devarim. But one of the things that's interesting about it is that Moshe, in one part of his victory, he starts off with a song, and then at the end of his life, he tends to come and conclude with a song. But the uniqueness of this particular Sidra is during the time of the 7th month. Most times comes around the 7th month, and it usually comes before Yom Kippur, and that we just pass through a cycle of Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shemini Atzeret. Now, when we look at the days, the appointed times of the Most High, which most people have heard through the various congregations, those that follow the programs on D.C.B. and others, that we have a cycle of appointed times that's mentioned in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And as we go through those cycles, if we take time just to calculate, we got at least 70 days off. Just count those cycles of time. And with the Shabbats and those Regalenes and all those appointed times and the times that's entailed within it, that's a lot of time for a nation to actually be off and be in the presence of their creator, which is paramount by any nation, any nationality, and any ideology, where this is a regular occurrence. Some people may read about the book of Esther where they had 6 months of partying and stuff like that. But that was a one-time thing, whereas we have something like this every year. And one of the uniqueness about it is that I like to just bring out some points, because we talk about Chagim, which is a feast. Some books might translate as festivals, as opposed to what they consider a solemn assembly. All the Chagim is a solemn assembly. That's number one. I like to emphasize is that, because some people might think, because it may not say a cog on it, that you don't actually feast, and that's a misnomer in that sense. That's not correct, in the sense that anytime the Creator has an appointed time, you're supposed to have a time of enjoyment. He even tells you so much about bringing your offerings up so you can have bread in His house. Not for Him, but the hospitality of Abraham extends even beyond that, from the very house and the sanctuary that the Creator had where His name dwelled at. One of the things is that those Shalom regalenes, around the time of called Pesach, or some people they call Amaso, and called Shavuot and called Sukkot. Those are times we bring different harvest festivals before. So naturally, your own household can't eat what your land produced within a week's time, within a couple of days' time. So now you have a very strong festive thing because you're bringing up produce. But then there's certain types that you might have in the 3rd year and the 6th year that you might eat within your gates. In all those solemn times and in a holy place, those times that they might not call like Yom Teruah and like Shemini Aseret. Those times are festive as well, and you have food and stuff and feasting and and enjoying yourself before the Most High at the place He chose, or at your own locale if you ain't making the Shalosh Regalim. The Shalosh Regalim is when we must be at one particular location. Yom Teruah, we don't necessarily have to be at say Jerusalem or wherever the Mishkan was in the wilderness. On Shemini Atzeret, we don't necessarily have to be at Jerusalem, but most times when you be, if you made the Shalosh Regalim around Sukkot, most likely you would stay there that long because that is a harvest festival. Well, you have finished harvesting and you brought your tithes up. So when people look at it like a solemn day, it's like they seem they get the connotation like it's played down and not as valuable before the Creator. It's just that you have something that's incumbent upon you 3 times in the year, and that's males, and be at a certain location. That's the only differences in the agricultural festivals when you talk about, Chag HaMatzah, Chag Shavuot, and Chag Sukkot. Now, one more thing I like to bring out is that I was just coming about, a lot of times we say we pass through Yom Kippur and we have a new beginning for spiritualism and starting off with a clean slate. One of the things I like to bring out is that some people think, Yom Kippur, only deal with sins with you, and deal with sins with it just you, but not presumptuous sins, accidental sins. But I like to share and share this out because when most of us read, and I look at a lot of congregations and they read, said, for those sins we've done through, presumptuously, forgive us. If Yom Kippur didn't have that effect on the presumptuous sin, then I would like to say, why say that? When I tell you in the very chapter that everybody read in Leviticus, you're forgiven for all sins once you went through that day and afflicted your soul on that particular time. So, and it say the unintentional. Now, the regular offerings you have during the year, that's another level. That's another level that's not like Yom Kippur. If you bring a sin offering in a year, and if you did something presumptuously, I'll say, okay, I'm getting ready to do something, so I'm gonna have my sacrifice ready. That is not what is, that's not forgiven through your sacrifices. And that's why I said, eat meat, throughout the year, because the way we bring up and we don't be sorrowful and it be mostly a presumptuous attitude. But I like to make sure people have, clear minds that when we pass through Yom Kippur, every last one of us was given, if we atoned, was given a clean slate before the Creator. And one of the things I like to tell people, you cannot be harder on yourself than the Creator is harder on us, because our atrocities is against Him. And if the Creator can forgive us for the atrocities done to Him, then we should be able to forgive ourselves in some areas. And therefore we should come through the season with a better mind state. Hence, Haazinu, when Moses come and forgive the song here, the first song, we praising the Creator for delivering at the song in the sea. You know, when we crossed when we came out the Yam Suf and the Egyptians drowned. But this one here is a song of not only testimony, but also what the Creator done for us. So now when we look at this particular chapter in Deuteronomy 32nd chapter, some of the things is talk about the I like to highlight is like the final the final reviews of Israel's history. All right. And Moses,
Deuteronomy 32.
Yes.
On what verse?
Oh no, we ain't going into it yet. We're gonna start from the top though.
All right.
All right. So the final reviews of Israel's history, we deal with Moses, you know, to ascend Mount Nebo at that time, and there he would die without entering the land. And then he talks about how righteous the Creator is. But what's unique about this here, Sidra, those that has, you know, alios, that they have people come up to read the Torah, and some congregations, you might have 7 people read. Those designated spots of reading was done from basically a rabbinical point of view. You know, and they came and say, well, this is where you start, and this where the next one come up, this where the next one come up. But the pattern was usually a person that comes and read a portion of Torah out the book, if they follow a strict rabbinic approach, or, you know, which is traditional approach, once they instituted it, they start off speaking on something good, on a good note, and they usually end on a good note. But when it comes to this particular Sidra here, for some reason, they start off on a good note, and the next reader comes up and he ends on a bad note. So they start off on a good note and end on a bad note. Start on a good note and end on a bad note. And that's pretty much for 6 portions of the parts of the Parshiot and the Sidra. So, you know, which they say, this is one of the traditional reasons for it. They say that's done to keep you reminded about changing your ways as you approach Yom Kippur. So that's why one of the reasons why this is written as such. I'll just give you some of the letters, and I'm trying to be brief because I'm going to try to cover 2 portions this particular time. So I'm just going to highlight certain things within it. But, you know, they got like usually the first one you start off with, you know, Haazinu, which is the actual Sidra itself. And then it goes to the, it's divided into letters like, you know, the design, which would be the next portion a person would be reading, which is the core. They go to the next one, which is a yod, which is Yekivenu. They deal with another one where the next reader will come up, which is YAH, you know, and God saw. Then they would do with Lule, which is, you know, if not for, and it deals with around the 32nd chapter, 27th verse. Then the last one is key, with a cough. All right, those 6 particular portions there start off good, ends up kind of rough. When the reader gets down, then the next reader come up and pick up with some portion of a good part. I just figure I'll just bring that out for those that actually do a regular Torah reading, and they get to notice that some things are a little different here. And like I said, this is rabbinical that most people do. And it's from the sages, pretty much. We don't find that pattern in the book. And you say, well, why we got the 7 readers? And those that might have a regular Chumash, almost every Chumash will have where the next reader start to read and the breakdown. And then they have a Maftia portion. All right. So I like to just read a few just to try to be a little bit more brief on this particular chapter. So we'll start from the top. Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 1.
All right.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O ye earth, the words of my mouth.
All right.
My doctrine.
Now, that's good right there. One of the things is that why would the heavens even listen to a man? You know, and Moshe's message is for us. Why he's talking to the heavens and why he's talking to the earth. If that message is really for the nation of Israel, and that, you know, he said, well, maybe you're talking to the wrong people, a wrong person, if this is addressed to me. But he did a similar thing before, in a sense when Nadab and Abihu was slain because they offered strange fire before the Lord. And after that, he asked, he looked for the sin offering at the inauguration of the temple, the dedication of the dedication of the tabernacle. And he looked for the sin offering. When he looked for the sin offering, he looked thoroughly for the sin offering. Then he addressed his other nephews, Eleazar and Ithamar. But yet, though he addressed it, it was the responsibility of his brother, Aharon. So here it is that he addressing the heavens and the earth, and like I spoke earlier, that they are supposed to be witnesses against us and not for us. And Isaiah used the reverse formula when he talked about, you know, give ear earth and listen to heavens. So now when Moses say that, one of the things is that it's like he's closer on a spiritual level to heaven than he is to earth. When you talk about give ear, that's somebody that's right near you. When you tell somebody to listen up, you know, to hear that's from a distance. The earth is more distance from him. So now we ourselves, I spoke earlier that we're made of two elements. We made of some heavenly force and earthly force, because where the breath of life come in, it comes in from the Creator. And where our body is, it's made of the dust of the ground. So we got a combination of both. And I spoke earlier about witnesses, that a witness got to not only know the person that you witness against, and understand its makeup, but be around, be able to testify, and can't be intimidated. So now, when Moses says that, what's the next verse? Second? Verse 2.
Verse 2.
Yes.
It reads, my doctrine shall drop as the rain, and my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass.
Okay, hold it there. All right. Now, in Moses, one of the great things about the heavens got to stop doing what it's doing. The earth must stop doing what it's doing. When you give somebody attention, then everything cease and be silent. If you're going to listen to somebody, you can't be working over here and working. I say, I hear you, and you cooking or banging or building something or washing something. You got to be focused in order to get the whole element of what's being said, the whole information, all the information that's going to be said. So here it is that he's telling heaven and earth to pay attention, so to speak, in a nutshell. Now we know the word, when we say listen, that, you know, they always have a play on it in English, which means silent. The same letters for the word listen is the same word you come up with the word silent. They have a play on that. That's something we learn in like grade school coming up. But one of the things you talk about doctrines and instructions. All right. So when you talk about these doctrines here, you're talking about some kind of instructions that we're going to get. All right. And it says, my doctrine will drop as rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, and it shall and as the small rain upon the tender grass, and as the shower upon the herb. Then that's not enough. What else? Third verse.
Third verse reads, because I will proclaim the name of Yahuwah, ascribe greatness to our God.
Hold right there. So if the very things that was here before Moshe was here before man was, and Moshe could exercise that authority, because the Creator created the heavens and earth, which, you know, we read from Bereshit, that he created the heavens and earth and all that in them is. And yet man being one of the last things of his creation, then how you gonna tell something that has preeminence over you to be silent? We was given dominion over the earth, but it never said we was given dominion over heavens. So now, how did Moshe exercise dominion over the heavens? Under the earth, we was supposed to have dominion over that, but over the heavens, and then so much so to stop doing what you were made to do. Stop doing what you're created to do. The sun, be still. The moon, lay in the valley of Ajalon, like Joshua said some years later. The stars, stay in your place. Earth, stop turning. Don't let nothing grow at this particular point in time. Go through a stasis, still life, because I'm going to proclaim, the name of the Creator. And that's powerful enough. When a lot of times we take God's name as frivolous, cheap, because we talk about it so much, we use it so much, so it don't has that real strong weight, to us. But the name itself is powerful. That's why, where I come from, brothers don't mind to use the tetragrammaton. We use it when we explain it to somebody. We might say Yehudah, that's how you pronounce it. But most times when the school I come from, we mostly say the supreme intellect of the universe, the creator, heaven and earth, and the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's, the Most High. Those are terms that the school I come from use in reference to the Creator. And that's only out of respect, out of respect. It's just like your own personal father or your parents. Only when you're trying to say and explain and identify them to somebody else, then you call them, by their name. You might say, oh, this is my Abba's name is, Zurishaddai, something like that. And that, my name might be, Shekinah and Levi, whatever, you might say something like that. But that's only to identify, but you don't call your parents, by their name. So it's, and that's out of a respect. And and you don't want to be worthless. And then you take pride in your parents' name. So we're supposed to be taking pride that we actually belong to the Creator. So when Moshe said, I'm getting ready to proclaim the Creator's name, there's so much power in it that the very elements should pay attention to it. Because when we get into Bereshit, the Creator could have thought the world into existence, but he spoke it into existence. And yet we're going to find later on that he raised his hand and swear by himself, which is above even his name. So the heavens, one of the things we look at that King David said that the heavens declare the glory of God, and the earth, and show forth his handiwork. And so now that the sun can't pronounce the Creator's name. The stars can't pronounce the Creator's name. The moon can't pronounce the Creator's name. The earth can't pronounce the Creator's name. Moshe himself is as capable. So mankind has the ability to pronounce the Creator's name. And therefore that puts it on a level above a lot of creation. But we'll go a little bit further, and it says that fourth verse, the rock. I got it myself. The rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of faithfulness and without iniquity. Just and right is he.
Just right is he.
Okay. All right, and in fifth verse.
It reads, his corruption his? No, his children's is the blemish, a generation crooked and perverse.
Right,
do you thus
All right. So now, there's nothing wrong with the Creator. Now here's a man that's slated to die. that messed up, you know, and said that he would not go into the land. He would not lead the children of Israel into the land. Him and his brother, the final thing that caused God, the Creator, to go against him or declare, make a declaration, is that Moses will not enter the land because he didn't speak to the rock, and his brother as well. And I remind you, like I said, sometimes you might miss it in English, but both of them was commanded to speak to the rock, not just Moshe. So it wasn't a thing where though Moses spoke and Aaron was silent, they both told to do a job. They both failed at that particular job, at that particular instant, great as they were. All right. And then it goes on to the next verse.
The next verse?
Yes.
I'm sharing the screen, so give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Verse 6, it reads, do ye thus requite Yahuwah, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that have gotten thee? Have he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Okay. Ask thy father,
okay,
and he will declare unto thee thine elders, and they will tell thee.
Okay, we'll stop right there. Now, the 5th verse says, its corruption his. No, his children are his blemish. A generation crooked and perverse. All right. Now, anytime anybody could say anything negative, they only could say negative about the people that the Creator had chosen. But they can't say nothing negative against the Creator. They only could say something negative and be justified. And let me make myself clear. They can't say anything negative against the Creator and be justified. But if they say something negative concerning the children, they might be justified in that, and more often is. And that's why I said Moses himself saying, as heaven and earth is listening and witnessing, that we the only blemish with the Creator, not the heavens, not the earth. You know, we are. You know, and one of the things is that when we look at this here, and it said, you know, consider the years of many generations, ask thy father, and he will declare unto thee thy elders, and they will tell thee. All right, 8th verse.
Give me 1 second here. Okay. I gotta share the screen. Okay. Verse 8. Oh. It reads, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the children of men, he set the borders of the peoples according to the number of the children of Yisrael. For the portion of Yahuwah is his people, Yaakov the lot of his inheritance. Okay,
now one of the things is that the Creator didn't take the best of the people on the planet for himself. He took the least of the people and made him, for himself, for a specific purpose. And it shows you one thing, that if we as Israelites could be the least of all the people on the whole planet in knowledge, wisdom and understanding, and strength, and achievements, and yet we happen to be the greatest because the Creator took us and gave us Torah, then how much greater could somebody else be that's already had a good background, a good jump start? So when we as Israelites is chosen as the lot of the Creator inheritance, this teaching the world that through Torah, that if Torah can make these people great, make these people something that the world will look towards, how much more for the world to follow Torah? So we're supposed to be a living example of what a person can become, you know, at the greatest of their heights by serving and embracing Torah. And I'll speak more on that maybe next week after the Bereshit. But that's one of the areas I like to focus on on that area there. And some other things I like to bring out in this particular thing, I'm gonna skip a little bit in it. But we'll just go a couple more verses and then we'll move on.
Okay.
All right.
Verse 10?
Yes.
Verse 10. He found him in the desert land and in the wastes of a howling wilderness. He compassed him about. He cared for him. He kept him as the apple of his eye.
Okay. All right. Now, one of the things is what we forget, that Abraham had a nationality. He was a Syrian. Isaac, born in the land, was still basically a Syrian. We might say Hebrew because Abraham, name was, Abraham's name was changed to Abraham.
Right.
But how we know that Isaac was still a Syrian? Because it called our father Yaakov a wandering Aramean. So it looked at him as his nationality was that of a Syrian. And you notice, and one of the things I'd like to bring up, Abraham came across the Euphrates into the land of Canaan to be better and raised up to a great height. Yitzchak, Isaac, never left the land of Canaan, Israel. And, therefore he maintained his height and his greatness. Yaakov, on the other hand, had went back across the Euphrates into Syria. And it wasn't for the grace of the Creator, would never made out as great as it was. And he had to acknowledge that. As a wandering Assyrian, going there just across, and he said he crossed with just a staff in his hand. We, centuries later, where did we go? Back across the Kaaba, across the Euphrates, back into Syria. But when we come out of Syria, under Ezra and Nehemiah in that second Commonwealth, when they try to return and rebuild the second temple, that's when they start to live up a greatness. All right. So I'm just going to skip a little bit through this year's Haazinu in reference to it. There's a lot of points in here, but I don't want to be too long on that because a lot of people spoke on it. I guess any questions we could come talk about it another time.
Right. Take your time because it's two portions. So,
right.
I mean, we got time. Don't worry about how long it's going to take.
But we're just going to go with this and bring out a couple more verses in this section here. That this pretty lengthy chapter. But I'm going to skip on down to the 15th verse. The 15th verse. Just read the 15th verse.
So verse 15, right?
Yes.
All right. Verse 15 of the same chapter, it reads,
Yeshurun.
"For Yeshurun became fat and kicked. You have become fat, you have become thick. You are covered with fatness. Then he forsook God who made him and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation.
Keep going.
They provoked them to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed to powerless spirits, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that fathered you, you are unmindful and have forgotten God who formed you."
Okay, right there.
And when your host,
right there. All right. That says enough about our character, because when a person turned away from this way of life, even today, they no longer think of the Creator as being real. And a lot of times it's because we don't recognize the little miracles, which is great, that happen so often in our life. And I only call them little miracles because it happens so often that we pay no attention to it. Because a lot of times we don't think about breathing until we're almost out of breath. We don't think about thirst, water until we're almost thirsty and dry. We don't think about food until we're hungry. And we don't think about a pain in the knee until, consider our legs until they got some kind of pain or ailment. So the thing is that when they start to worship another God, they didn't consider the Creator any further. And a lot of times when they start to worship another God, they already, you do it when you have leisure time. Sometimes it used to be a saying that we don't want to be too rich, so lest I forget you, and I don't want to be too poor, lest I curse you. So some people, when they get so down and out and things get rough on them, they turn against the Creator. And when they get too wealthy, they forget the Creator. Now, we use the name Yeshurun, and I like to just bring this out. Our people, the nation of Israel, have three names: Yaakov, Yisrael, and Yeshurun. Those three names. And those three names, Yaakov was given, by his parents. That's the name his parents gave him. All right. Yisrael was given when he wrestled with the, God-like being, angel, and prevailed. And it said, your name is Israel, and the Creator co-signed on that. Yeshurun is a name only the Creator gave us. And how we know that only the Creator gave us this, when we read a few chapters back in Deuteronomy, it says the Creator called Moshe and Joshua before him and said, I want you to teach the children of Israel this song, not make up a song. See, the first book of Exodus, when they had the song at the sea, them lyrics, the people came up with. Moses sang this song. And then the people came up with it, and then Miriam led the women, and they did their thing. So that's the people's lyrics about what happened. But when it comes to this particular song here, and this particular chapter, this lyrics came strictly from the Creator. So since these words came strictly from the Creator, and it's also, this chapter is written in like a nice poetic style, that Yeshurun is the name that the Creator gave us solely himself and solely for us. So now we have one name, the first name Yaakov, given by earthly parents. We have Yisrael, combination, our endeavor as a human being and wrestling with an angel. And the angel, said your name is now Yisrael because you have power with God and with man. And later on, the Creator referred to him as Israel. But the ultimate thing he looked for is Yeshurun, which is upright. So now, that's the name, and that's what the Creator wanted, and said, when we wax fat, it's just Yeshurun. When we got upright, when we got great, we forgot the Creator. Now, they have a play on those names. The last letter of the name of Yaakov, the last letter is, is a bait, and the last letter of Yisrael, Lamed. The last letter of Yeshurun is a noon. All right, so if you combine them a certain way, you got the word Laban, and Laban itself, Lamed, Beit, Noon for Laban. And Laban means white, and it also, in a sense of means purity. It's supposed to be like a purity, clean. Isaiah said, make it, make my sins, wash me, and make my sins, as white as snow. So that's our greatness. That's our purity part. Where, we're coming from Yaakov to Yisrael to Yeshurun. So the last letter of it is Laban, it could be pure. But then you change the spelling of those letters, the same three letters, and now you have what you call a noon, you have a bait, and you have a lamed. All right, that spells Nabal. Nabal means shame, and it also means a fool. So we could become very pure, very great, transparent, or we could become so shameful and be a fool. That's from the three names. So we got to constantly ask ourselves, what name are we going to proclaim today? Are we going to be the Yaakov? Are we going to be the Israel? Are we going to be the Yeshurun? And if we're going to be in all that, we're going to be in the good light of a Laban, which is the pureness of it, or we're going to be like the fool, the Nabal. And it's no mistake when the Creator names you. and gives you a nice name, because that's our potential to be that way. All right, we're gonna just go a little bit further in here, and it says we'll skip on down to the. All right, wait, this 21st verse. Let's go there. 21st verse.
Verse 21.
Yeah, 21.
21st verse. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those who are not a people.
Okay.
I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation.
Okay. This is, this is prophesied, and I do know a lot of people spoke on that already. So I don't need to go in depth with it, but sometimes when we look at it and say, well, what is it to be American? What is it to be an Afro-American? What is it to be a Native American? Oh, we don't like that term. What is it to be an African? What is it to be, an Atlantic? One of the things that when we came up is like, we spoke in the early days, one of our greatest themes on the corners was, don't tell me your religion. Tell me your nationality. That's what we used to always talk about. Tell me what nationality you belong to. If you begin to know yourself, then you could begin to say which way I want to go in life. So a lot of times people don't, we as Black people that was in this America that came through this diaspora didn't know ourselves. And then what is really an American? Because Amerigo Vespucci was an Italian. And yet they say Columbus discovered America, but yet they name it after another guy, Italian such as Vespucci. And Italian ain't the major language here. So what is America? America is made up of many different people, many different nationalities. So to say you're American, we try to take on a whole nother concept. So a lot of times we say, and that causes somewhat a dilemma for us when we try to say, okay, we're Israelites, because the black man in America, every group got their nationality.
Right.
Chinese got they're still Chinese American, they're still French American, Italian American, Greek American. Right. So America is secondary, but their nationality stay first. And we used to say, a German Shepherd born around the world is still a German Shepherd. An Irish settler, if he's sitting over here and born, he's an Irish settler. So those type of things, was stimulating people. And so now we come up not knowing who we are, not knowing where we want to go, and yet we say we've mistreated, but we recognize that we're being treated the way we should. We feel we shouldn't be treated. And that's what most of the controversies is today. But he said, you can provoke us to jealousy and by a foolish nation, because we look for all the greatness to be saved in society that we say our laws supersede. So if the Torah supersede, say that the Constitution of America, then that means right in there that if you're only looking for the Constitution to live your life by, instead of the Torah or the instructions of the Creator, then you will never be as great as you could be. And that gonna be more of a strain. But let's look a little further. I just want to go a little bit, and it says 39. Let's go down to let me see before I go there. Make sure without counsel. That's 28th verse.
28th verse?
Yes, let's read that.
28th verse, let's see.
All right.
Excuse the sound in the background. Somebody's coming with
That's right, no problem.
Some speakers through here. Verse 28. For they are a nation void of counsel. There is no understanding in them. If they were wise, they will understand this. They will discern their latter end.
All right. How much
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the areas is that we don't like to communicate. We don't like to take counsel. We don't like to even be in a council meeting. One of the strangest things I found in my small amount of time in this way of life growing up is that when you say we're going to have a council meeting, everybody find out something else that they need to do other than come for a council meeting. And yet you read in prophecy, a nation without counsel shall perish.
Shall perish, right.
All right. So we become so busy in our life, and yet we complain about our life, and yet we don't want to come down and sit down and talk about what's going on in our life and how to make our life better. That's what counsel is, because no one individual have all the answers and don't have all the solutions to our problems. And so when you have a council, you know what I mean, then you know what I mean, that shows that you're interested in building. And when people avoid council meetings, you know, just for trivial reasons, because I'm not feeling it today, or they ain't gonna talk about much today, that's an issue I'm not even concerned with, then that's a nation that's going to perish and pine away. And you can't build like that. And the Creator letting us know that even when you see yourself declining, it says you're a nation without counsel. That means that we won't even come together to discuss our problems with each other. And we share the same problems. So, and we won't come together and say, look, we need to turn to God because we don't have the solution. And that's the difference. So a lot of times I hear often, and I'm trying to be brief in this here so I can go into the next chapter a bit. We hear often about people saying that we got to, you know, we got to get out this congregationalism. We got to think nationalism. Well, I like to say that you read about the congregation of Israel more than you read about the nation of Israel in the book. And all Israel ain't gonna fit in one spot. And a congregation is a community, whether it's a Qahal and a dot, you know what I mean? It's the assembly of Israel, you know. And so the thing is that it's the purpose, because we have 12 tribes, 12 individual characters, which we'll get into a little bit in the next sidra. And the thing is that it's your individuality, your uniqueness that I need and respect, not your similarities that I got. Because if you got the same exact qualities I have, then what asset would you be for me? It got to be something unique that's you, where you can contribute to the building. And that's what it's all about. We have a saying, how could two walk together? Let's be agreed. Agreed don't mean being exactly alike. Agreeing means we recognize what we both need. And that's so when we talk about nationalism as opposed to congregationalism, you build a step at a time. And even when we all get together, you might have your style of speaking. I may have my style of speaking, but it's still nation building. And it takes all these different blocks unifying with a common purpose. That's what makes the uniformity of something. Because a community is outsiders coming together. That's what a community is. And uniting over a particular purpose. But we're gonna go a little bit further, and let me see if I can skip where I can skip back. All right. 36. Let's go to 35th verse. Let's read about this.
Verse 35. It reads, "Vengeance is mine, and recompense against the time when their foot shall slip, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that are to come upon them shall make haste."
Keep going.
"For Yehovah will judge his people and repent himself for his servants when he seeth that their stay is gone, and there is none remaining shut up or left at large. And it is said, where are their gods, the rock in whom they trusted, who did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offering? Let him rise up and help you. Let him be your protection.
All right, now, before we get to the next verse, I didn't think about it. The Creator feeling bad about what happened to us. I'm bring out a particular position. I'll speak more on it when there with Genesis, with the Cain and Abel and Havel's Cain and Abel, or Havel, as they say in Hebrew, and Cain in Hebrew, when they offer up their first offering to the Creator. I'll speak more on it in length, so I don't want to go ahead and that. But in this instance here, that the Creator is hurting and concerned because even though we started worshiping and sacrificing other gods, it's how we being treated afterwards. And that's a serious concern. But then the next verse goes on to tell you what?
The next verse?
Yeah, because even the nations start to ride us and say, look here. And that's another thing I'd like to bring up before we go into the next verse, the 39th verse, is that one of the reasons that they say rabbinically most times, because you might find the book, the Tetragrammaton, the name of the Creator, used a lot in scriptures, and it says, it's not no law against it. It's just a rabbinical prohibition against it, but it's not a law and it's not against using the Creator's name. Just say don't take down His name in vain, would make it worthless. So if it's often, the more something is available, the less value it has. So most nations, when they beat another nation, they say your God can protect you. My God whipped your God. So now it's this thing that's being brought out in this song that other people will say, well, where's the gods that you sacrifice to? Because other people acknowledge the Creator. They don't worship the Creator. I was talking to my son earlier today. He said, well, most people try, they believe in a God, and they all trying to, serve a God in different ways. I say, yes, they may be trying to, acknowledge a God, but you only could serve the Creator the way He wants to be served. I said, you had guys like Nebuchadnezzar. He acknowledged the Creator. You had Pharaoh in Egypt, acknowledged the Creator. You had a lot of people acknowledge the Creator. Even Yaakov's father-in-law / uncle got a dream and said, your God, not my God, told me not to do this and that and that and the other to you. So there's a lot of people acknowledge the Creator, but where will they serve the Creator is a different thing. And that's the thing. So it's never an issue about the Creator being acknowledged. The issue is the service of the Creator. All right, and 39th verse. It says,
verse 39.
Yes.
It reads, see now that I am He, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Nor is there any who can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whip my glittering sword and my hand takes hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies and will requite those who hate me.
Okay, right there and there. Now, you notice it says enemies and those that hate them. That sounds similar to the Decalogue we read in Exodus the 20th chapter, when it says, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation that hate me, and showing mercy unto 1,000 them that love me and keep my commandments. Now, visiting the iniquities of the fathers, if the father sin, what they got to do with the child? Because the child steadily sinning. The next generation steadily sinning. And not only that, he said hating. So the Creator gave you either 3 or 4 generations before he execute that drama. Because now that you're talking about your grandchild is your 3rd generation. Your great-grandchild is your 4th generation. So he gives you that kind of time before he execute any kind of judgment on most people. But yet, showing mercy to 1,000 of them that love me and keep my commandments. All right, why would I need mercy if I'm doing law? Because I might think I'm doing it correct. It might not be correct. I'm doing the best I can with what I know at the time. And that's where, therefore, I would need that mercy, because it judged me and I was way in the balance and found wanting, but you showed me mercy. That sounds like something we just went through with Yom Kippur. Because we're judged, but we're looking for mercy when we go through the Yom Kippur. We ain't looking for the judgment, we're looking for the mercy. You know, and that's why he said, show mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Say, keep what? Keep what we understand to be right, even if we do it wrong. That's the kind of creator we serve. All right. I think I'm pretty much done with this particular chapter here. I want to go to the blessings, so I won't be too long in that.
Okay.
We go to 33rd chapter. We'll move on to 33rd a little bit.
33rd chapter.
All right, yeah. So again to it. All right.
Deuteronomy chapter 33. Wazohat Braka.
And all right, now before we get into it, you know, not a lot of times, you know, we got some things that went on here that's unique. That Moshe gave us a song that and the song that was that we just passed through in the 33rd chapter, 32nd chapter, was basically the lyrics that the Creator gave to warn us what's going to happen in our latter days. But yet Moshe come in, now he's going to give us a blessing before his death. And when these are blessings, he said, well, okay, for a man that did so much, just telling us about ourselves, that let us see how bad we treated our, you know, this Creator, and also remind us how much the Creator done for us. Now, at this particular time, he said, and this is the blessing. And that's what it translates as. And this is the blessing. And, you know, and you notice it's in the singular, but they're talking about for everybody. Result of bracha. You know, so it's in the singular, but it's for the whole nation of Israel. But yeah, he's going to talk about individuals. Now, what makes his blessings different? We have a similar thing when Yaakov in his last days was going to bless the children of Israel and his sons, you know, all his sons. And you notice that when Yaakov called them there, he first off, the first three, it was kind of rough for the words he had to say. But his intention was not just to give them and tell them about bless them, but also to show in the future, you know, how, you know, some of the outcome, and give them some kind of prophetic knowledge about what their character gonna mold them into. So Yaakov on his deathbed called his sons to give a blessing, but he started with a lot of admonishment. And you say, okay, Moshe himself, he's not our father. Yaakov is our father. So here, Moshe only going to talk about blessings, where Yaakov talk about our father. Yaakov talk about blessings and admonishment within the blessing. Moshe just had already admonished us with the song that he was told to deliver from the Creator. So now, what is unique about this is that in the beginning, God blessed Adam, and then he blessed Noah. But the first man he allowed to actually bless anybody was Father Abraham. Though Noah blessed his children, you know, blessed be, you know, he gave a blessing for Shem. He said, blessed be the God of Shem, and Yahweh should dwell in his tent. And that was it. That was it. But when it came to blessing, Adam was blessed, Noah was blessed, and Abraham became a blessing where he could bless other people. So from the time of Abraham, that's when people was able to bless other people, and God gave that right to Abraham first. So now, and that right was passed on to Yitzchak, that right was passed on to Yaakov, and now we read where Moshe is getting ready to bless the nation of Israel. When they talk about, in the previous chapter, they talk about, a king in Yeshurun. Moshe is like a king figure, but it's a lot of commentaries in reference to that. But I'd like to, express one thing, that our true king, when we united as a people on one cause, not necessarily in body, but for one cause, one aim, one agenda, one destiny, then that's when the Creator is king. And when we just subdivide it, then we're gonna have a human king, pretty much. But at this time, we're gonna start off with this chapter here at the beginning of the 33rd chapter of Devarim, and go from the first verse.
Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 1.
Yes.
And this is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the people of Yisrael before his death.
Okay.
And he's
right. Now, one of the titles he got, Ish Ha-Elohim, a high title. It said there was nobody else that was a man of God, but he's referred to that as the man of God right here in this blessing. And Moshe is the most humblest man, the meekest man that was in the earth at that time. The meekest man. I don't know if anybody was before him, but it said he was the meekest man on earth then, in his time. And yet he's called the man of God because, he's a man of God. Now, because a person might be a man of God, that means he get all the blessings that he want in life. Because his thing was to go into the land. This man of God had messed up, but he still continued to be a godly individual man. Sometimes when you get your punishment, some guys don't never be the same anymore, where they still be godly. They still try to make a repentance, still try to go through it. That's why one of the things about afflicting our souls through Yom Kippur is that we punish ourselves only enough so that God could take notice to us, and we try to move on and better ourselves. We don't look at it like, I got to punish myself and beat myself because the Creator is mad with me. The Creator delights in our repentance. And it goes on to say that he's a man of God himself. Moshe himself as a man of God, and what he's going to do? Bless the children of Israel before his death. And that let you know, most people on their way out, they say, I got mine, you get yours. Some of our people heard that from different teachers coming up in school. I don't got to pay attention to my class. I got mine. Y'all got to get y'all's. But normally Moshe wasn't like that. Moshe was a completely different individual. He goes in and focuses on that. I want to bless you before my death. Go ahead.
verse 2.
Right.
It reads, and he said, Yehovah came from Sinai and rose up from Seir to them. He shone forth from Mount Param, and he came with holy tens of thousands. From his right hand went the fiery law for them. He truly.
Before we go to that. All right. I just want to bring out that's talking about when at Mount Sinai, when he came down and spoke to us in the midst of the fire. That's what it's referring to like that. And also now it came down, and then when it came from Sinai, it's from the time that we received the commandments at Sinai, when we heard the voice of the Creator speaking, those 3-point-something million people at the foot of Sinai heard the voice of God. And that was a holy spot at that time. Then once we built the Mishkan, that's when he came and traveled with us. Because the purpose of the Mishkan was to build a place for the Creator to dwell in the midst of us, not in the Mishkan. He would commune in the Mishkan, and it would house the tablets of stone, but it was only there. We built that, and the Creator was not going to dwell in that, but he said he's going to dwell within us. So therefore, when he left Sinai, the holiness of the pillar of a cloud by day and the fire by night, and the presence of the Creator there. It was amongst us and went through us. All right, read a little bit further.
To verse 4.
Third,
third verse. It reads, he truly loves the people, all his holy ones are in your hand. And they sat down at your feet, and everyone shall receive of your words.
All right, we was ready. All right, we was ready against the third day to receive and hear our audience with the Creator. We knew what we was there for, and we was prepared, so we thought. But once we heard the voice of God, we didn't want to stay on that level. All right, go a little bit further. 4 verse.
Verse 4. It reads, Moses commanded us a Torah, the inheritance of the congregation of Yaakov.
Okay.
And he was king.
All right. Before we even move on, and the reason I'm spending a little bit more time on this, because it's important points that's coming out here, is that the Torah itself is not a treasure. We don't look at the Torah as a treasure, because now we think of it as having, intrinsic value. And the difference between a treasure, the Torah being a treasure, some gold, rubies or whatever the case is, as opposed to an inheritance, is that a treasure itself, can be snatched up by anybody, can be taken away. All right, that's the difference between a treasure. All right, a treasure itself is that something that you appreciate. All right, and you know about it, and you look at it and say, I appreciate this, and other people appreciate that because of its intrinsic value. But when you talk about an inheritance, the Torah itself is an inheritance where a person could be born into an inheritance. He don't know it even exists when he come into the world. It's there for him before he even get into the world. That's what an inheritance is. So when you have an inheritance, it's before you even got into the world. You're born into a situation where that's yours and no one else can take it. So in other words, we are privileged as a people, as an Israelite people, that the Torah is our inheritance and not our treasure. So that's one of the reasons why even in our diaspora, even in all the exiles, nobody comes to us and basically from the outside and say, you are the people of the Most High. You are the children of Israel. Somebody wake up and say, there's something wrong with they say that they say I am. It's like a person that had amnesia and wake up and say, I can't be that. I'm starting to remember my past. I'm starting to remember my legacy. I'm starting to understand who I am. I'm starting to awake. So now, when you talk about an inheritance, this is mine. I realize this really belongs to me. That's what makes the inheritance great, and that's why there's something that an inheritance is something that you can't separate from. An inheritance is something you can't even give away. That's why it's that the Torah is an inheritance and not a gold or a treasure. And that's one of the important things we got to remember when we think of Torah. Torah for us as Israelites is an inheritance and not a treasure. We could treasure it, yes. We could give value to it, yes. We could love it, and yes, and say it's worth everything to us, yes. But the thing is that when you treasure something, you normally have a monetary level set for it.
Right.
But when you have an inheritance, you say, this is part of me forever. And it will be part of my next generation forever. That's what it is. That's what was great about the Torah for Israelites. And that's why Moses didn't say it was anything else but an inheritance. That's what the difference is. The priesthood is not an inheritance for everybody. The priesthood is only an inheritance for the sons of Aaron. That's it. The kingship is only an inheritance for somebody that might be the crown prince or whatever, but it's one of his children. Right? But the Torah is an inheritance to every individual Israelite. And that's so, and you notice This is the blessing.
Right.
At the beginning. That you all have the exact same inheritance across the board to start with. All right. All right. Let's go just a little bit further.
Verse 5.
Yeah, five. And then going to say, yeah. We're going to read about a few of the children blessings. Then we're going to skip to 34.
Verse 5 reads, "And there was a king in Yeshurun when the heads of the people were gathered and all the tribes of Yisrael together."
Okay. That means that right then and there. As long as we're united as a people, one goal, one purpose, one cause, all right, then that king is the creator. That's the name that the creator gave us, and no human being gave us. No angel gave us that. Only the creator gave us that name. Yeshurun, the upright, the darling one. All right, read 6 verse.
Verse 6, it reads, "Let Reuben live and not die, and that his men become few." And this for Yehudah, he said.
We know Reuben had a lot of problems, firstborn and stuff like that. And Yaakov gave him one blessing, with the quality. When we compare Reuben's blessing, the Moshe says here, live and not, and not die and then become few. But we know during the wilderness, during the 40-year track, the Reubenites had a lot of problems, caught a lot of flack. And then when they stayed on the other side of Jordan, that created a lot of problems too, because they're going to be an area of attack too. A lot of attacks came from that side of the Jordan, from that West Bank, and it also came from up north. So that those some of the plights that they had to deal with in the tribe of Reuben. But Yaakov's blessing was that Reuben, the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, but I will not excel. So now Reuben, by his father and his latter days, is reminded of his failure. And yet he said, look, you got qualities. You got excellent qualities, but you're not disciplined. You can't hold, you can't control yourself. You can't control your passions. So much so that on his deathbed, his father reminded him. All right. And then it goes on to it goes on to the next one. Judah 7.
Next verse reads, "And this for Judah." It reads, and he said, "Hear, O Yehoah, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. His hand shall contend for him, and thou shalt be a help against his adversaries."
All right there. Now, you notice, it means about Yehudah, and it goes straight, and it's not the order. Yaakov came in the order of most of their birth. All right. At this time, Moshe dealt with Reuben first, and you notice Reuben was the first to gain land on the other side of the Euphrates. Even though Gad spoke up first, Reuben got the first portion of that land over there, and that belonged to Sichon and Og on the other side. But then with Gad and then part of the tribe of Manasseh wound up on that side. But the first one to actually get their inheritance on the side crossing the Jordan was the tribe of Yehudah. So he addressed them as such. All right. Now we're going to read about just a little bit about the tribe of Levi, which is the 8th verse. I got it. And Levi, he said, that Urim and that Urim be with thee, with thy Holy One, whom thou didst prove at Massah, with whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah.
Right.
And it goes on to say,
"Who said of his father and of his mother, I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew he is his own children, for they have observed thy word and keep thy covenant.
Keep going.
They shall teach Yaakov thine ordinances and Yisrael thy law. They shall put incense before thee and hold burnt offerings upon thine altar. Bless Yehovah his substance and accept the work of his hands. Smite through the loins of them that rise up against him, and of them that hate him, that they rise not again.
All right there. Now, the tribe of Levi have a long, big blessing, and people would say, hey, Moshe from that tribe. Why did, I mean, y'all couldn't bless Levi like that. I mean, Levi and Simeon was to combined in the same blessing, instruments of cruelty in their habitations. What I mean? He said, cursed be their anger. He said, divide them and y'all could scatter them throughout Israel. All right. So now Moshe don't even talk about Shimon, and he talks about Levi, but he said what most people would say right off the bat. Oh, that's his tribe.
Nepotism.
So therefore, since it's his tribe, he will give him a big blessing. No, first thing he did was gave a reason why they deserved the position they got. So he spoke about their praise first. So it wasn't about because they're my family, because my brother is the priest. It's because I'm from the tribe of Levi. He talked about what Levi did when it came to the area of the golden calf. Now, one more thing I'd like to bring out too that most people don't realize, that Levi's unique tribe, and very few people ever bring this, bring it out, is that during the 40 years, now this is the 40th year that Moses given his blessing. All right, and since this is the 40th year that Moshe given the blessing to the nation of Israel, the different tribes, that what is so unique here that sometimes we don't speak on much is that the tribe of Levi was the only tribe where the males were circumcised. Everybody else was not circumcised for this 40-year period that was born in the wilderness. Only the tribe of Levi circumcised their children, the males. So, when Joshua crossed over to Jordan, that's when the other children that was born in the wilderness, 39 years or whatever it is, 38 years old, had to be circumcised.
Right.
But the tribe of Levi was already circumcised, and they were sanctified. And that shows right then and there that they was already so unique and so separate from everybody else that they even kept the laws of Abraham in the sense of being circumcised there, because they could not be around the sanctuary, could not be around the holy thing unless you had part of the Brit Milah, part of the covenant of the circumcision. So therefore, Moshe praised them how they even got that they stood up for the Creator. When it was time to stand on the side of the Lord, they didn't regard brother, sister, uncle. They didn't care nothing about that. If you had something to do with the golden calf, and they only about 3,000 people died, and then most had to get something through the plague, and then when it came down to the Baal Peor, there was a Levite who was jealous for God, Pinchas, jealous for the Creator, that the Creator had to exonerate him and said, look, this is why he got the priesthood. So I'm telling you what he did. He did it for you, and he did it for me, and he saved you, and therefore he earned the priesthood. So Moshe following the suit in the sense that I'm giving them credit because this is what they do. I got to give them their resume and the accolades that they deserve this blessing right here. So it don't have anything to do because I'm related and I got family in that tribe, and my brother and them nephews is all priests. So and that's what we got to realize these days. If a person is promoted to a certain position, if you get a certain accolades, then you got to say, okay, once you acknowledge them to a position, you got to say, well, acknowledgement means that you speaking about what they did. If you can't give a resume about what an individual did that's worth something, then how are you going to say, I'm going to give them a promotion? I'm going to look for a promotion. You have no resume.
Right.
Yeah, you've been around. The only resume is that you stuck around. Right. So we all was around the same time Levi was, but we all wasn't on that same level as Levi was. Tribe of Judah had to wait for guys to get circumcised. Tribe of Reuben had to get guys circumcised. Tribe of Gad, all the rest of the tribes had to wait for guys to get circumcised. And something as simple as that, when it says on the 8th day, they wasn't doing it for 30-something more years. Now that's something to consider. who could draw close to the Most High? He that had clean hand and pure heart.
Pure heart.
All right. So, I say that because it's not about your kids being all the time. Every father like to see their kids step into their role and enhance it more and more, but it don't always work like that. And then Moshe letting them know that that's why he spoke about at length about Levi. Let's speak about Binyamin just a little bit. We're going about a couple more tribes, and then I'm gonna go to 34.
Verse 12, of Benjamin he said, beloved of Yahuwah shall dwell in safety by him. He covereth him all the day, and he dwelleth between his shoulders.
Okay, now Binyamin itself. It speaks about Binyamin. Binyamin is actually the only individual that was born in the land. He ain't got no birthright over there in Syria. All the other 11 brothers are born in Syria, but Binyamin is the only one in the tribe that was born within the land of Israel. And part of the temple itself that was built is built. They even say the Holy Holies part was actually on Binyamin's territory. Part of his plot.
Right.
So Binyamin, have a unique blessing in itself in that sense. That the actual temple that was built in Jerusalem, the actual part of it was actually on Benjamin territory.
Right.
And rightfully so. Yehudah's born in Syria. Joseph born in Syria. Reuben born in Syria. Gad, Asher, everybody else born in Syria. Even Dinah, she born in Syria.
Right.
Joseph, Benjamin, born in the land of Israel. All right. Let's go a couple more tribes.
All right. Verse 13. And of Joseph he said, blessed of Yahuwah be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew and for the deep that coucheth beneath, and for the precious things of the fruits of the sun, and for the precious things of the yield of the moons, and for the tops of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the everlasting hills, and for the precious things of the earth, and the fullness thereof, and the goodwill of him that dwell in the bush. Let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the crown of the head of him that is prince among his brethren. His firstling bullock, majesty is his, and his horns are the horns of the wild ox. With them he shall gore the peoples, all of them, even the ends of the earth. And they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh.
All right, without going in length on that, I'm just going to be brief. He got a big blessing for Joseph. And he said, well, why Joseph? Such a big blessing. Next to the tribe of Levi, that's the next biggest blessing you read about. And this is one that was sold away. But one of the areas is that his successor is going to be out that tribe. Yehoshua going to be out that tribe. Right. Yehoshua is not the head prince of Ephraim, though he's an Ephraimite, but he's not the head prince of that tribe of Ephraim. But yet he's going to be the leader of Israel to take over after Moshe, and he needs some encouragement and needs some support. And Moshe doing that blessing down that he could be successful in his conquest of the land for the children of Israel, because his job is to take them over into the land. We're gonna skip over to Gad. That's one. This will be the last one we deal with for a moment.
Gad, verse 20. And of Gad he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lioness, and teareth the arm, yea, the crown of the head. And he chose the first part for himself, for there a portion of a ruler was reserved. And there came the heads of the people. He executed the righteousness of Yahuwah and his ordinances with Yisrael.
All right, now Gad had a decent blessing, but when we deal with the tribe of God, when we look at the tribe of Gad and look at their territory and stuff like that, where Moshe is supposed to be buried is in God's territory. It's in the territory that, and when you go up in the mountain, they're going to be in the territory of God on the other side of the Jordan. So therefore, God got prestige to say Moshe died and is buried on my territory and my property. Excuse me a minute.
Yes, family. As Nasik state takes a break, just all right. There,
Okay,
you
great.
back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So since Moshe died on on the mount, it was in the territory of God. So therefore, God had a blessing to say, hey, the famous man, Moshe, the man of God, he is buried in our territory. I don't know where. He's somewhere up there. So he got a blessing, in that. And then also it was Gad that brought the proposal to Moshe about the property. We go to the 34th chapter. We're just going to read through most of that and finish it out. I just want a couple more highlights in there. 34th chapter.
Chapter 34
Yes.
of Deuteronomy. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Moshe went up from the plains of Moab onto Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho, and Yehovah showed him all the land, even Gilead, as far as Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Yehudah, as far as the Hinder Sea, and the south and the plain, even the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zoar. And Yehovah said unto him, this is the land which I saw unto Abraham, unto Yitzchak, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed, and I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither.
All right, there.
Yes.
Right there. All right. Now, one of the issues is that, one of the things I like to bring out, present, is that when you see the whole land, it's not just seeing territory, and it's not just seeing, I see trees over here, I see all kind of rivers and lakes here. And I see beautiful mountainside with fruits growing and stuff. That's not just seeing the land. What he's seeing was the potential, what could be done, and how certain laws could be implemented to its fullest. So when the Creator was able to show Moshe the land, he not only seen the future of the land, the future of Israel, but the potential of it as well, because he telling about the territories of the people, before they even got over there, what the territories look like, how things are. And you notice it wasn't about seeing the people; it was seeing actually the land and the potential of the land, what it could be. And Israel is such a unique land that, traditionally they pray for rain through this season now, all the way up to just before Pesach. They pray for rain. Before that, they was praying for dew. So Israel's known for two rains, the early rain and the latter rain. And it depends on the rain, and it shows about that it depends on the providence and how you stand with the Creator. And so when Moshe seeing the land, looking at a scenery is one thing. Seeing the potential is another thing. And Moshe was able to see the potential of everything Torah being exhibited to this height and executed to this height. All right, so we're going to go just a little bit further on there, because only 12 verses in this. So we can finish it up in here.
Verse 5. So Moshe, the servant of Yehovah, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yehovah.
All right,
and
his last job was obeying God's command. Dying. Ain't that something?
Yeah.
That's a command that most of us don't look forward to and ain't trying to do.
And most people fight.
Yeah, but yet he followed that last command. Said at the command of God he died. Said die.
Right.
So, however it was,
Right.
and it goes on to say,
verse 6. And he was buried in the valley in the land of Moab, over against Bet Peor, and no man knoweth of his sepulchre until this day. And Moshe
even the writer wrote it. Okay.
And Moshe was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated.
All right there. How do a guy? That's one thing I like to bring out. One, that he got a lot of details of where he supposed to been died at, but nobody know where he's buried at. All right, and let you know that the Creator actually buried him, but that information had to come down as we read later on, that the Creator had actually told Yehoshua, this is what happened. Because they actually waiting. Can't believe the guy gonna die. He been up there too many times, too long, not to come back. You know, he done went on a 40-day thing 3 times, made it back. And some of the bleakest of time, he made it back. So some people can't believe and really see and accept that Moshe died. And then another thing, it's always a controversy who finished out the rest of these verses. And Moshe up there, who finished out the rest of Deuteronomy that we get ready to read? You know, there's a lot of debate on it, but I just like to bring that out, as we come to this particular portion, because he's up on the mountain, and he gave them the blessing. Then he ascended the mount. So everybody could see him ascending the mount, but who's writing from that point on? And it goes on to say further that
verse 6. And he was buried in the valley in the land of Moab over against Beth Peor, and no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died, and his eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. And the children of Yisrael.
One of the things about the guy his age, eyes not dim, natural force abated. All right. Yet he said, I can't no longer go in and come out like I used to do. What was the formula that he had where he grew old, but he didn't grow deteriorated? That's the difference. He grew old chronologically in age, but his body didn't move with him and grow old with him. And that's something that we got. A lot of us would like to be able to say. If I had a choice to say, well, what age would I like to say, okay, I'm cool at? I like to stay at. And when you're developing, know what? A lot of times when you think like that, it's always you don't pass that stage. What age you would rather have stayed at when you was at your most fit and your most best, your most healthiest stage, most sharpest, most agile. So Moshe was made at that stage. And then a lot of us, like I said, I remember I used to have those small books where I could read. Now I used a yardstick, then I had to get these glasses to read. So Moshe, the Creator kept him in such excellent health that even the climbing the mountaintop at the end, it showed he was in good shape and ascend up there and die whole physically with nothing wrong with him, bodily wise. And that's why I said at the command of the Creator. And a lot of us would like to be able to say, how do we maintain our youth? Well, the fountain of youth is observing Torah to the best of your ability, and the Creator, would give you, that youth. When Abraham was 99 years old, then the Creator told him, "Okay, you're gonna have a son at 100," Sarah died at 127. Abraham was 137. Then he took another wife at 137, and having other children after that. So his natural forces wasn't abated at 137. He was still having children. So this Creator could keep you alive and keep you healthy through all that time. All right. And he says, and the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days, so that the weeping of the morning for Moshe were ended. All right. Now, 30 days become a tradition amongst rabbinic tradition. But the first time you read about 30 days, you read about it from the time of Yaakov, where it said, 40 days of embalming and 30 days for the mourning. That's the first time we read about a mourning period given to anybody with a certain amount of days. We know Yaakov mourned for Joseph, but he mourned that he thought he was dead and everything like that indiscriminately and refused to be comforted. But when we first read about a serious mourning period, we read about it for our father Yaakov, where it was 30 days actually that they mourned for him, 40 days embalming and 30 days of mourning. Some people just say all 70 days, but the mourning period is actually 30. So here we find a period where if you follow a traditional approach, they usually set in most prayer books and stuff like that, most Israelites they have in their synagogues or places of worship, that they have 7 days of what they call sitting shiva, for almost like, you're sitting there in one spot, deep mourning for 7 days, and then you continue until the 30th day, of serious mourning, except for on Shabbats, of holy days come up, then you don't mourn on those days. But this way they pick up the 30-day mourning from period when you read it in the book from Yaakov and from Moshe.
Verse 9.
And you read on the differences too, that the whole house of Israel mourned for Aaron for a length of time, where it says, when they talk about Moses, it don't say the whole house, it said, so the days of weeping of weeping in the morning for Moses were ended. So it talked about the children of Israel wept for Moses, but when Aharon said the whole household, and they bring out a distinction between Aharon was liked by everybody. Moshe wasn't, as well popular with everybody, as Aharon was. That's some of the, I'm just pointing these things out because you might find them in different discussions and stuff like that there, the wording that's there. All right, we can pick it up from the very end.
Verse 9. And Yehoshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moshe had laid his hands upon him, and the children of Yisrael hearkened unto him, and did as Yehovah commanded Moshe.
All right, now right there, that's a way of what they call a simcha, which simcha was when a guy goes and ordaining a rabbi or ordaining the next leadership, and also it's supposed to be done publicly. If you do acknowledge somebody into a position, it should always be done publicly, and and a lot of times you're putting your hand on, almost like a confession when they do over the scapegoat, like when I confess his sins, whatever the case is, except in the opposite meaning in the concept of it is that you acknowledging and promoting and even assuring the individual that you're supporting them in their endeavor. So that's one of the areas of and they get that also when the guy put a blessing on you. Right? But a lot of times when you put a blessing, Yaakov put his blessings, he put his hands on Joseph's children. It don't read where he put his hands on anybody else, but he put on hands on Ephraim and Manasseh. But laying hands on the individual, God, the Creator, told Moshe to lay a hand on Yehoshua, and he wound up laying both hands on him. So that means he was even elated to have a successor to replace him. And it's like in the 40th year when he realized that Yehoshua was going to be his replacement. All right, last three verses.
And there have not arisen a prophet since in Yisrael like unto Moshe, whom Yehovah knew face to face, and all the signs and the wonders which Yehovah sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land, and in all the mighty hand, and in all the great terror which Moshe wrought in the sight of all Yisrael. Hallelujah.
Right. Hallelujah. So Moshe set the bar, but one of the things I like to focus on, and said they had not risen a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. Now, we don't know what the future holds. And the reason I say that, is because when we read the book of Malachi and we read about the prophet Elijah coming back, we know he never died. We know the Lord took him. Right. Where he went, we know he went up.
Right.
In a whirlwind, in a fire, So we know he went up.
Right.
Now, if we believe in the scriptures being true, and the prophets being true, the words of prophets being true, then, it's going to be somebody, that be on that same level, be on a level like that. Now, what was unique about Moshe is that there could be another prophet coming that God, that brought, that could bring in new laws that Moshe have not brought. That's the difference. That Moshe set the bar for the laws for all the prophets. So every prophet that came behind him had to speak about the laws of Moses and not Moses speaking about the laws of some other prophet. And all the other prophets refer to the laws of Moshe. So with that, I hope I gave some insight on some portions of the two sidros, Haazinu and Result Habraka. And any mistakes by my own, like I said, one thing we was talking about, I like to also bring about the thing we were talking about trumpets one time. I spoke about trumpets,
Right.
and about the two trumpets that was made. And you read in the book of Chronicles about the priest blowing the trumpets, at the dedication.
Right.
But it's a unique thing. And when I was focused on and speaking about the two trumpets, when I was talking about Yom Teruah in the past, is that all we had was those two trumpets that was made then for that particular purpose of for those priests there. And we had more than two priests, because children of Aaron and their grandchildren was going to be priests. So they built more menorahs in Solomon's temple, and we had instruments built and had instruments made and stuff like that later on, during the time of the dedication. Before the dedication, he had them built, and Shlomo and Hamelech used those instruments. Now, what the Kohanim had, the word kazarot that they use for the word trumpet in the book of Bamidbar is not the word that's used in the book of Numbers. So, and most Tanakhs, just a bit of a trivial, most Tanakhs, when you go into the book of Chronicles and look at the word for the trumpets that the priest supposed to have blown, you find it written without any kind of nikados, any kind of vowels underneath it. For some strange reason, it could be, and if it's written like that, it could be dualisms in Hebrew is ayin. Like Mayim is a dualism. Yadayim,
Right.
for hands, pairs, dualisms. Even though it used the word chazarot for more than one in the book of Numbers, but it specified those two trumpets. And another way of saying two is using ayin, a pair. So that's another way to say two in colloquial Hebrew. And just for reference, I didn't say that people would make any other trumpets. I'm saying most people will blow the shofar and not the trumpets. And the trumpets for the Kohanim. I think if I'm correct. And when I made that statement last time, so I just want to make it a little bit clearer if I wasn't clear the first time what I was focusing on. But those that might still have some controversy with it need to go to the book of Chronicles, look at the word in Hebrew, see that that's one word that's written there that doesn't have no nikados on it, and yet the words in front of it and the words behind it have the vowels marched in there, and it's spelled differently. So like a dualism, and it's a lot of commentaries on that as well. So I just leave it for the people just to do the research and look. But that's say Shalom Aleichem, and I thank you for the time. So I apologize for being a little bit long. Hopefully in Bereshit I can break it down.
Are you going to take a couple of questions?
Oh yeah.
All right. So
I'm ready.
All right. So one question, being that during this holy season we had a lot of things that, well, not a lot of things. The first day of Sukkot fell on the Shabbat day, and Shemini Azeret also fell on the Shabbat day. Yom Teruah fell also on the Shabbat day. In your opinion, or the way you see it with Torah, if the first day of a feast day falls on the Shabbat day, being like the first day of Sukkot, Shavuot, or
the solemn day of itself,
right?
Yeah.
If it falls on the Shabbat day, and these are days that we are commanded to rejoice and to do, what we can for that particular feast day, but no manner of labor, right? No manner of labor work.
Maleket, yeah.
Maleket. So, what do we do in reference to when that day falls on the Shabbat day, that first day, and we're commanded to feast? Is it okay to strike up the stove and to cook and to start doing all the things to prepare for that feast, or does one day take precedence over the other? What is your view on that?
Okay, I I was going to wait till after the next week to speak on
Okay.
about
So
no, but
you
no,
want to?
okay. I'm gonna address this now. I'm gonna address this now because and you know I'll be focused on another area in it.
Right.
All right, the Shabbat itself, the world was created for the Shabbat, and the Creator exists and observed the Shabbat himself by setting the tone. So not and I'm explaining more that the Shabbat itself is more holier than any other day. And well, even among the guys that's amongst rabbinical guys, the guys that's be rabbis and stuff like that, it should be no question about the value of the days because they make a aliyah in most of the synagogues. I ain't talking about whether the Caucasian guys. I'm talking about our brothers, Israelite brothers, that follow rabbinic
Right.
pattern. There's no question about the value of the Shabbat being higher in those days, simply because when they do Menka, if they're gonna read the Sidra portion for the following week that's coming, like ahead of time, there's 3 aliyos. If it's come for a Rosh Chodesh, it's 4 aliyos. If it's come for a Shalosh Regalim, which is Pesach, Shavuot, or Sukkot, it's 5 aliyos. On Yom Kippur is 6 aliyos, and on Shabbat is 7 aliyos. So if they have more people come up on the Shabbat, that lets you know the more value of the day. And that's in every prayer book that they have in every synagogue that they go to. So now, if you look at your place as a temple, if you view your place as a temple itself, I don't have a problem. That's how you view it. I mean, that's how you view it. My thing is to explain what the law is, the best of my ability, without being partial to it. I'm not making up laws. I'm trying to, uphold and share the wisdom of the law. When it comes to the Shabbat itself, unless you have the Mishkan, unless you actually have the Beit HaMikdash, which is the temple, so that either the tabernacle or the temple, you got Kohanim that is bloodline identified, and they got an altar that's set up like that for that particular reason, then and only then, you could prepare when those days come up on the Shabbat. And only then, because and no other time. So that's why he was given a double portion even on Friday for it. But if they come other than Shabbat, then you could fix and kindle. And a lot of times we say, well, we're not worried about what the Jewish people do, whatever the case is like that there. But as they don't any food they have, if it came from a Shabbat, they had everything prior to it. So much so that they don't even cook too late on the day before Shabbat, so it won't be considered part of that. And so we should learn some things that's as say, well, to share, try to get more of the sanctity of the Shabbat, realizing that we're not in our land, we're in Galut, we don't have a temple that the Creator said dedicated. We dedicate things, and it's okay for you to dedicate something for the service of the Most High God, but that's you dedicating, and it's not saying that the Creator actually going to accept it to that level. Cain, as we read again to the next week, he made a dedication, an offering. All right. I'm not, telling people that I'm trying to belittle them for doing what they do, because you view, maybe you're a prophet, and maybe the leader yourself as a prophet and got some kind of revelation that I don't know about. So now, if you're a Nabi and you got some revelation from the Creator, something like that there, then you do what you do. You do what you're told to do. And I have, you know, and that's it. But we can always check and examine an Navi. I got to caution people about that. We can always cross-examine your credentials as an Navi. All right. We're not supposed to cross-examine your credentials as a judge once a verdict is rendered, you know, but we're supposed to cross-examine your credentials as a Navi. So, you know, and so that's my position on it, and that's the teachings I grew up under. That when it comes on the Shabbat, and it's more wide, well, worldly understood as well as too. If it came up on the Shabbat, then, you know, what you had prior to the Shabbat, that's what you got. If it came up any other day other than Shabbat, then you could go ahead and cook this and fix that, and, you know, as far as your eating is concerned. And the words are used, but for us, malaka as opposed to maleket. So that's very clear.
Okay. The next question. And European Jewry, for holy days they celebrate the second day. What is the purpose of that? For the exception of Yom Kippur, I don't think they celebrate the second day on Yom Kippur.
Okay, all right.
What is the reason for that?
All right. You know, honestly, a lot of Jewish people that do that, right? And it's actually, I don't like to use the term second day. They use the extra day.
The extra day.
You know what I mean, in that sense. What it was is that Babylon is further east, and people was and further east. And like when I was in India, I'm like 3 hours east of Yisrael. All right. So a lot of times, and this is what they did. They harmonized with Israel about the word coming. They let Israel declare when they was observing certain day. Mm-hmm. That's when they did an extra day. They already knew what time it was where they was at, and they knew the time was there. But they gave precedence because you still had, Kohanim that was able to identify themselves and everything like that, and it had to be declared, and everything had to be declared from Yisrael, from the land of Israel. So the people would start early in their particular locations, but they do an extra day to harmonize with Israel, because they already knew, hey, so-and-so Kal Kasuko came in now, or Rosh Chodesh came in now, over here. But the sun rises earlier for us over here than it does in Israel. So now we're going to do what we know we're supposed to do, especially when major holy days come up. We're going to do what we know to do. But we're going to go an extra day so we can harmonize with Israel, because you can always prolong something. You know, you can start a little early and prolong it, but you're never supposed to cut it short. So if you want, we're going to say, okay, it's just like the dedication. He went straight through from, 14 days in all, and through the month, continuous thing. So, even through Yom Kippur. All right. So he prolonged a celebration because he went early on the celebration, but, but he didn't cut short a celebration, and that's the difference. So you can always prolong a day, say, oh, Shabbat is over with now, but I don't want to go back to the regular secular world. So I might wait another hour or another 20-something minutes, way after it's dead, deep dark, to show the Creator that I ain't rushing. And I'm gonna start earlier, so I know Shabbat starting. I just throw a time out. Say Shabbat might start maybe 7:15. That may be, that's Shabbat start then. All right, so I might start at 6:15. I'm done with the rest of the secular world. To me, Shabbat is ready right now. I'm into the Shabbat zone of mine. The actual Shabbat might come in a little later. And when it's over, I might say, I don't want to go back into that mundane thing. I want to keep this holiness feeling a little bit longer. So that is okay. But that is why they do it. It's not mandatory. It's only done outside of Israel. It's not done in the nation of Israel. The only day they do an extra day is on Yom Teruah, because it's a Rosh Chodesh. And a Rosh Chodesh is never like a defining, like, just like that. So that's the only time they do an extra day, even in the land of Israel today, a Rosh Chodesh. But all the other days, if it's 7 days in Booth, and then the 8th day, Shemini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah is on that same day. Outside of the land of Israel, they do the extra day. But we are West, and I brought this up to a rabbi one time. I said, well, you're West. And I'm saying, but he didn't realize that's what the reason was. But historically, that's what the reason was. But he didn't realize it when I was talking to him. And I said, well, you're West. So what you do? Since you're West. And then you got these international date lines.
You're about 6 hours behind.
7.
7 hours behind, right?
7, yeah. And then they had this discussion, and most brothers.
Yeah, because if you're West, then you would be behind, so you wouldn't need technically to do that extra day because you're behind. You're well behind.
Right. 7 hours behind. Right. And they had this controversy, but they compromised on this controversy. Is that if you flying, over to Israel, and say like, you come into a cog or whatever the case is in between. So you might had a cog might have been over with in Israel, but you coming to the United States and you coming into the cog. What did you do? You know what I mean? Because now you up in the air for 10 hours, but it's only 7 hours difference.
Right.
And you left at the sundown and the cog is over with in Israel.
But you coming into the cog at the United States.
Yeah, in the United States. So, they had these big controversial things like that. And they say, well, where you was, that's where that's where it ends. Yeah, where it is. But that's the only reason they do the extra day, and that's they're supposed to do it to harmonize with Israel, so they kept that going. I guess they never realized they're gonna be this far west or something like that there, so they just kept it going regular.
One last question. I've always heard this for years. I know we usually don't we don't observe it. Well, what is Simchat Torah? Because you hear it. You hear it. What is the significance of it? What is the purpose of it?
Well, you get a better answer when you look it up, though. Now we'll, thoroughly. But basically, in a nutshell, being brief, is that you finish the book, the first 5 books in a year's period. All right. From, Genesis, Bereshit, and Devarim, which we just did, what y'all did already, already, and then you start this Shabbat, Bereshit, but this is Shabbat you start after Simchat Torah, all right. So, so what they do is on in Israel and over here the extra day, and which would be the 9th day. They get out, they read the Torah, they read Vazot HaBaraka and Bereshit, and they keep back and forth, and then they started a bit again, the Simchat Torah, and they carry all the Torah scrolls around, the synagogue, showing that they rejoice in the Torah because it's an inheritance, it's an inheritance of Israel. So they're rejoicing in it, in the Torah, because you're supposed to rejoice around this time, and Sukkot, Pesach, you don't even talk about rejoice. They talk about rejoicing Shavuot, and it talked about rejoicing twice, and during the time of Sukkot, and so you really into a festive mode, rejoicing mode. So therefore, what you're rejoicing, that I'm able, not only I got the inheritance of the Torah, but I'm able to live within the Torah. So and so that's basically what it is. And so they march around the scrolls, and just like Torah never ends, and they usually do 7 circuits around. All right, but Torah never ends, and we never ends. Just like the moon, we never ends, and look at the moon almost go out and then it comes back in. So that's those one of the teachings about Simchat Torah, and the guy in most prayer books, when you buy thorough prayer books, octafolks, when you put the circuits that's made around, so a lot of Israelite places, unless they go through a rabbinic practice, don't do it as much, and most of them don't teach that extensively on it, on that particular day about Simchat Torah, and follow it. I said most. Now maybe in the rabbinic schools they might do it, teach extensively that, but from my experience with of dealing with the congregants, they really don't elaborate it in depth about, how this came about, why they do this, when it started. And we know it only started pretty much, we only trace it pretty much back, just a little bit from Ezra's time.
Right.
You know, and when he had all these scrolls and guys lifting up the book of the law, and like I said,
Nehemiah, right? That was Nehemiah, right?
Yeah, but Nehemiah and Ezra at the same time, you know.
Right.
All right. So and when he raised up and pick up the scroll,
and the people stood.
You're right. Yeah, but that's hogbogging. In every synagogue, when they raise the scroll, you're supposed to stand up. You know, that's rabbinic edict. I spoke earlier and I said, well, you have like 7 rules that the positive commands that the rabbis came up with, and maybe about 1,000 of negatives, which means thou shalt nots. All right. So and like I said, anybody that want to know a little bit more thorough and more on it, and Shalom used a prayer book. That's I got the same prayer book right here, within reach. Sidur Es Chaim. That's it. Sidur Es Chaim.
Oh, I have that one.
Yeah, it got a lot of explanation on the prayers and stuff like that. I don't use it where I go at. I only use it here because when I go up north to one of the places, I want to be familiar with what they do, because some of the words the prayers be a little longer in this book, and some of the customs be slightly different in this book, and they got some prayers that's added in the book. So, but the commentaries is excellent in the book. So
Okay.
and that's what I recommend for a lot of people. If you want to know more about, just read the commentaries every now and then. Most times when you're in the synagogue, you mostly see that prayer book just that moment, and then most times you don't read the commentaries.
Okay. Thank you, Nasik. Thank you. I know this was a little bit extensive, but we needed to get both portions in, and I think that this will be a good video for the people to learn.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And like I said, any mistakes been my own, and it was my intention to offend anybody. I try to share, an insight as best I can, and they can always reach out with, for me anytime.
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. Shalom.
All right, shalom.